Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare! He goes where no ordinary rabbit would dare. Look out!
Hello and welcome to yet another review from yours truly, Diagnostik80. On this episode, I've managed to get my warty mitts on a production sample of the awesome Bucky O'Hare Storm-Toed Trooper from Boss Fight Studio, so without further ado, let's pocus some chodes. I mean, crocus some toads, of course.
Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare! He goes where no ordinary rabbit would dare. Look out!
Before we get into the toy, let's look at the character in more detail first. The Toad Empire is the major antagonist in both the Bucky O'Hare comics and cartoon, but there is a rather large difference between the two platforms when discussing the Storm-Toed Troopers. In the cartoon, it is explained in the second episode, A Fistful of Simoleons, that the complex computer program was designed to run the consumerist toad culture, including traffic control, interest rates, and other menial tasks, but instead took over and with full use of the media brainwashed the people to be a subservient military in order to rule the galaxy. In the comics, the toads willingly follow Complex, which paints a rather different picture of the toads as a species. The Storm-Toed Troopers are basically fodder for the show and are often easily dispatched by Bucky and his teammates. The homage to Stormtroopers from Star Wars is evident, as they also have a terrible aim when it comes to shooting anything. Another interesting personality trait appears whenever a Beetlejuicean berserker baboon is around. They are terrified of them, and for good reason of course. I mean, who isn't? In any case, they usually drop their weapons and run away as soon as Bruce or his brother Bruiser turn up and become utterly useless. With this information at hand, you wonder why the Beetlejuiceans don't just battle the Toad Empire as a race. They would almost certainly win and suffer minimal casualties. Anyway, that's for another day.
Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare! He goes where no ordinary rabbit would dare. Look out!
The original Storm-Toed Trooper figure from Hasbro was another beauty in a solid line of toys that unfortunately ended before the second series could be released. That first figure was awesome, but did have a few differences to the character shown on screen in the animated series. For one, the green for the shoulder, elbow and knee pads was a much brighter green, and I imagine this was done to save money on the deco. Secondly, the toad emblem on their chests was a solid gold piece, once again done as a cost-cutting measure. The most interesting design choice, however, was the decision to do exposed toad toes on the feet, rather than the bulky steel toe cap boots they don in the show. The boss fight version is definitely more in line with the animated character model, with the darker colour padding, Tampo logo and booted feet. Also of note on the boss fight figure is the addition of gold deco on the wrist bracelets. The figure left these elements in blue, and so did the cartoon version early on, but in later episodes we do see the gold on the wrists as well. I totally understand why boss fight went with the extra colour break, as it gives the toy a nice aesthetic balance with the gold secondary strapping, logo and neck collar. I'm also a fan of how the new strapping stays true to the original figure, even on the back with a port for any future accessory add-ons. One final major difference to the animated version is the use of black on the clothing instead of blue. This is clearly to keep it closer to the card art and comic, so I wonder if we're going to get an animated colours Toad Trooper in the future. So that's the history of the character and the first toy. Let's get involved in the new figure now.
Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare! He goes where no ordinary rabbit would dare. Look out!
I love the packaging for the old toys so much, and the updated versions are up there too. The original Michael Golden and Neil Adams art is on show here again with a few tweaks, most notably the darker hue on the green elements and the wrist guards, and strapping being all one gold colour. They have removed the other toads from the original art here as well and gone with that beautifully designed card back from Brian Hickey that has the diagonal cut with the comic strip on the right hand side. He is the 7th carded figure so far if you include the Holiday Bucky. The Corsair Canard Deadeye makes 8 but isn't carded, so he doesn't get a number. Complex face. The bio is the exact same one from the original figure written by Larry Hama and is once again hilarious. Nice bit of social commentary there with the toads being interested in acquiring more shoddily manufactured goods than their neighbours. The collector-friendly packaging is an absolute dream as always, and here's what you get with this cool toy. One spare insane-looking and rather deranged head with a groove in the top for helmet and hat attachments. A baseball-style hat as seen in certain episodes but with a colour deco that complements the comic version. 3 spare hands, 1 right hand pointing and 2 jazz hands. And then we have his weapons. A curved bayonet based on these similar weapons on the promotional poster for the Bucky O'Hare graphic novel, and then given a boss fight twist. They attach to the awesome Toad Phlegm laser rifle. Yes, you heard that right. The rifle has a section that detaches and does look rather suspect on its own, but let's not go there, although there is a rabbit joke in there somewhere. The bayonet affixes using the port and plug combo, and he also gets a pistol that is seen in the cartoon just in a different colour to match the rifle and bayonet. The figure is simply sensational. As I mentioned before, there are slight differences from the original toy deco and design, but Boss Fight have managed to take the character of the Storm-Toed Trooper directly off the screen and into our hands with this guy. He oozes personality with the fantastic head sculpts, and the proportions of the body are just perfect. The articulation is really good, but I would say that you don't get a great deal of movement in the hip joints, which is not the worst thing in the world and doesn't seem to restrict posing at all. The toys are already so dynamic in their designs that posing really isn't an issue in the slightest. The helmet pops onto both heads with a real satisfying snap, looks awesome, and is something that wasn't a feature on the original toy. The hat also connects in the same way, but the fit isn't as tight with the snap. Still looks good, however. It was always going to be a difficult task to find a way to make the helmet and hat fit on the heads, so I understand why they went with this feature. However, the hole is very large and stands out massively when the trooper isn't wearing any of the headgear. It's probably the only thing I'm not a massive fan of. The only workaround I could think of would be to have a spare head and a head with a helmet moulded on, so you could have one with and one without, but with the addition of the hat, you would end up with a lot of heads. I suppose you could have a chunk of the head come off and just have it as a separate attachment, but after all these ridiculous ideas, I can see why this way was probably the best one to go with. The pistol can be affixed to any of the ports on the secondary, so he can hold the majority of his weapons. Getting his hands to hold the rifle was a little tricky, but once on there it looked great and only took a small amount of faffing. The heads and hands are easily removed for the alternate pieces, and any combo looks fantastic, including intense jazz hand trooper. So many great little details on this one, the warts on both head sculpts, the rivets on the steel toe cap boots, the deco touches on the skin of the heads and hands with the dark and light green colouring, the detailing on the wristbands and secondary, and the texture on the rifle. This is one of my favourite figures of all time now. Of all time.
Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare! He goes where no ordinary rabbit would dare. Look out!
This Bucky line just keeps getting better and better, and I can't even enjoy this guy now that I'm thinking about who is coming next. Boss Fight have already announced that Bruiser will be the next figure, and that just blows my mind. I cannot wait to see how they do him, and how he scales with the rest of the line, being such a huge character. In any case, well done Boss Fight. The Storm-Toed Trooper is brilliant, and a fine addition to an already stunning line of figures so far.
Bucky! Captain Bucky O'Hare! He goes where no ordinary rabbit would dare. Look out!
For those who pre-ordered this bad boy, then you should be getting him at some point next month, and will be available on the web store and bossfightshop.com and on the app. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back soon with more toy reviews, and look out for my top 10 of 2018, which will be dropping just before the new year. I have been Diagnostik80, and you have been wondering when this video is going to end, even though you can clearly see the time down the bottom.